Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you all for joining us for the launch of Let's Grow Together, a joint initiative between the National Marine Dredging Group and the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Buthaina Al-Mreikhi, and I will be your MC for today. The goal of the Let's Grow Together initiative is to accelerate the growth and qualifications of Abu Dhabi local industries. To this end, we are here to tell you more about NMDC Group's requirements for our upcoming projects, in the hope that we will work together on these exciting new opportunities. Now, I'd like to welcome to the stage His Excellency, Abdullah Hamad Al-Mazroui, Chairman of the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to inform us about how this initiative contributes to the Chamber's goals.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sabah al-Khair. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start by welcoming you to the National Marine Dredging Group Business Opportunity event. We are delighted to be joined today by the UAE top businessmen across a range of industries who are taking part in shaping the future of the country's economy. By hosting this event today in collaboration with NMDC Group, we aim to provide local suppliers with a platform that connects them with the right opportunities and offers them the chance to work on some of the UAE biggest projects. By doing so, we support the growth of the private sector and propel the growth of the country's economy. This comes in line with the vision empowering the private sector in Abu Dhabi and enhancing its competitiveness, making Abu Dhabi the first choice in the MENA region for doing business by 2025. As such, we recognize the importance of acting as networker to achieve this vision. Through its networking role, the Chamber supports its members to uncover opportunities, expand their professional network, and grow their businesses. Furthermore, we ensure facilitating connections between businesses, suppliers, and other relevant entities, paving the way for strategic partnership that contribute to the Emirates' growth and prosperity. We are proud to announce that the Chamber membership base has exceeded 133,000 members. The Chamber is dedicated to offering its members companies with a chance to take part in this initiative, which provide exceptional opportunity to expand their businesses and contribute to the advancement of the national economy. This event comes on the heels of the MOU that was signed between the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the National Marine Dredging Group to enhance supplier awareness of the market needs and optimize procurement, thus increasing in-country value. This MOU supports the UAE vision of creating a diversified, resilient economy in line with the Abu Dhabi Economic Vision 2030, as well as the UAE Central 2071, which puts the major focus on building a knowledge-based economy. The initiative also contributes directly to the supporting of the National In-Country Value Program, ICV, which enters on supporting local industry, including private sector, and enhancing their contribution to the growth of the national economy. As part of the Chamber's role in supporting manufacturing industry and providing unique services to ensure its growth, the business matching event today also align with the new Abu Dhabi industrial strategy. which was launched by His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in June 2022 to strengthen the Emirates' position as the region's most competitive industrial hub. The strategy aims to increase the size of the manufacturing sector to reach 172 billion dirham, creating 13,600 skilled jobs, and increase Abu Dhabi non-oil exports by 134% to 187 billion by 2031. Our goal is to facilitate meaningful connections between highly qualified suppliers, suitable projects, empowering them to contribute to the development of the country's most important initiative driving its economic progress. In conclusion, I would like to reaffirm the Chamber's commitment to providing businesses with the necessary support to grow and expand their operations, including legal advice, consultation, networking opportunities, and seamless services, to name few. Thank you for attending this event, and I look forward to see some fruitful partnership that will drive the nation's economic growth and enhance prosperity. I would like also to extend my thanks to my colleague, Yasser Zaghloul, who led the major part of this initiative to bring it to life. And he is a very great supporter to the chambers and the business community. And I would like to thank him for his role. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this motivating introduction. Next, I'd like to welcome NMDC Group CEO, Engineer Yasser Zaghloul, to the podium to tell us about the vision behind the Let's Grow Together initiative.
Wow, mashallah, full house. Thank you. In a time of great international uncertainty, we are blessed to live and work in a country that sets its own agenda, develop its own internal capacity, and establishes its own priorities, seeks indigenous solutions, utilizing its own local resources to initiate actions. Your Excellencies, Abdullah Muhammad Mazroui, the Chairman of Abu Dhabi Chamber, esteemed board member, partners, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased, in collaboration with the Chamber, to welcome you all to the first jointly crafted initiatives, EPC contractor initiatives, to engage Abu Dhabi local suppliers in our strategic projects. The initiative, Let's Go Grow Together. Speaking about growth, in short, for NMDC Group, who grow in value from 350 million to 9 billion US dollar in less than for 15 years. Becoming a world giant with a diversified portfolio worth 54 billion dirham, secured projects, strategic projects in Abu Dhabi, as well as global-wise, in dredging, marine, and energy. Every member of our extended work families, every supplier, every client, and every shareholder has a unique success story and grown development with NMDC Group. This is the capacity for growth that the company offers. This is the capacity for growth that the chamber offers. This is the capacity for growth that the country offers. We grow big, we grow fast, so let's grow together. And as a part of our together efforts to support and increase in-country value, NMDC Group and Abu Dhabi Chamber have signed a memorandum of understanding to engage Abu Dhabi-based suppliers in key strategic projects. Today's initiative formalizes our shared vision to ensure the growth and development of Abu Dhabi private sectors. The initiative aims for main two aims for the initiatives: to highlight the growth opportunities that small and medium-sized businesses in Abu Dhabi can capture over the next 5 years as a part of the 54 billion secured projects and more to come in the pipeline. And to equip these SMEs with the toolkit needed to join NMDC Group on its ambitious growth journey. And by growth, I don't mean just growing profit. At NMDC, our vision extended beyond the creation of wealth to creation of value. Our figures speak for themselves. So do our prints all over Abu Dhabi iconic landscape. It's this culture of excellence that shapes the future of NMDC and guides our efforts to support sustainable development, drive economic growth in UAE, and create a strong and self-sufficient supply chain ecosystem. Our mission is not limited to the shareholders. We have commitment to all our stakeholders. NMDC Group has the potential of becoming a major economic powerhouse as well as an employer. And we are committed to raising UAE supplier awareness of requirements and opportunities associated with NMDC Group future projects, with the aim of creating real procurement opportunities for national suppliers. Because our success comes with a responsibility towards our community, and our success is giving in nature. We open new markets, we open new jobs, we diversify our portfolio, we diversify our supplies, we diversify our suppliers to get more knowledge and technology into the country. We learn, we share the knowledge. And with knowledge comes awareness. At NMDC, we are proactive and strategic in addressing social and environmental issues, where our contribution will have the optimum impact. Our industry is also a critical instrument for mitigating the effects of climate change and meeting the ever-increasing need of land for rapid urbanization. And with sustainability built into our approach, we drive a robust strategy for decarbonize the future. And we make significant investments in new and innovative technologies, introducing climate adaptive solutions and advancing the global energy transition to improve environmental performance. The UAE hosting of COP28 stresses the fact that we have a vital role to play in the transition to a safer planet, and the need of delivering growth in sustainable manner has never been stronger. And strength comes from partnership. This collaboration with Abu Dhabi Chamber demonstrates our efforts to push the sustainable growth of the national economy using Emirati capacity. And it's truly an honor to be launching the Let's Grow Together program. As Jack Welch once said, before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. To ensure the success of this initiative, the chairman of the chamber has decided to develop and set a monitor performance indicator for Let's Grow Together initiatives, plus a capacity building program for the interested Abu Dhabi suppliers. And inshallah, 1 year from now, we shall meet here again to report on the success of these initiatives. Dear partner, the market is uncertain. The competition is fierce. Yet our partnership enhances our efficiency and competitiveness, allowing us to reach our full potential to deliver our everlasting commitment to Abu Dhabi and its wise leadership, who fully supported us during our journey and for the future by trust, confidence, and support. Dear partners, let's grow together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Engineer Yasser, for these valuable insights. Please scan the QR code on the screen to send in your questions to the group's procurement team. Our next speaker is Mr. Peter James Marvin, the Chief Technical and Resource Pool Officer of NMDC Group. He will be presenting the details of the group's requirements and opportunities for the suppliers.
Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The rest of the presentation will be in English, unfortunately, so my apologies for that. As His Excellency and Engineer Yasser stated, we want to ensure absolute awareness of where the opportunities exist with NMDC Group and what's needed in order to be able to realize those opportunities and for us all to grow together. What I'm now going to do is put some numbers and some facts and some figures around what that means. Sorry, it was at the end of the presentation. This is why we need IT support. Okay, as Engineer Yasser said, we currently have in our hands awarded projects worth 50 billion dirhams. But we don't stop there. The growth of NMDC over the last few years, as was mentioned by Engineer Yasser, has been very ambitious, and our ambitions don't have a limit. So we're expecting that 50 billion dirhams worth of projects to increase to potentially 50, 60% larger than that in the coming time. NMDC, for those of you who know, is a very proud national company here in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE. We are one of the most fast-growing companies in the region. And what we want to do is reach out to our partners, reach out to yourselves in order to be able to make sure that our success becomes your success also. And we want to ensure that as we grow globally, that we bring everybody with us, and everybody here in this room and all the supply chain in Abu Dhabi has the opportunity to grow with us. So let's understand what that means as we grow together. For those of you not familiar, NMDC 15 years ago only operated here in the UAE. In the last 15 years, we've expanded to become a true global marine EPC contractor. You can see we have all the blue countries are countries in which we operate. At the moment, our flagship energy vessel, the DLS 4200, is on its way back to Taiwan for a second campaign. We have extensive operations in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, Oman. We've worked in Eritrea. We have agreements in France. We have projects in Albania. We've done projects in the Maldives. We are now a truly global entity. And what we want to offer to the supply chain of Abu Dhabi and the private sector of Abu Dhabi is the opportunity to expand your horizons beyond that of only Abu Dhabi and to join us in these exciting opportunities outside Abu Dhabi as well as inside Abu Dhabi. So here, let's talk about numbers. As I said, we've got 50 billion dirhams, over 50 billion dirhams of projects in hand, and a great expectation that that will grow. But what you need to understand is 50% of that revenue typically is spent to external suppliers. That's either in resource hiring or materials, subcontracts for construction or fabrication on some projects, and our support services. So that means 25 billion dirhams of the 50 billion dirhams of work that we have in hand is going to flow out of NMDC, and we hope to maximize the amount that we can flow to you through our partnerships and our relationships. This expenditure covers every single sector. It's not just about construction plant and equipment. It's not just about construction materials. We also spend significant sums of money in insurance, healthcare, media. In every single industry sector, as you'll see, part of this is shared with our supply chain. But as you can see, if we look at it from numbers point of view, 36% of that expenditure is spent on resources, 33% on materials, 15% on construction and fabrication subcontracts, and 16% on support services. So we'll explain a bit more about what that means. If we look at the resources, typically we have three types of resources that we bring in from our supply chain. We have marine support craft, not the main equipment, not the dredgers, not the large crane barges, but the tugs, the barges, the cargo barges, the anchor handling tugs, the support craft, the crew boats that work and support our main fleet. The plant and equipment. Here we're talking about rockworks equipment, and I'll go into a bit more detail after a while to explain what we mean by that, because quite often we see a bit of a gap in the understanding of what we mean when we say an excavator. So we'll explain some of that. And manpower, labor supply, skilled workforce, and specialized white-collar engineering. With the huge growth that we've had, as any company grows, the dependence on our supply chain is key. Now, out of that 36%, at the moment, 58% of the 36% is with existing Abu Dhabi suppliers. So there's already around 60%. The opportunity is in the remaining 42%. That's where capacity is insufficient, or there isn't the types of resources available within Abu Dhabi. Only then do we look outside. So this is where the opportunities come. In materials, the materials, we've actually shown the split UAE versus non-UAE. But as you can see, more than half of the 33% flows out from Abu Dhabi and from the UAE to external companies. This is because certain types of materials, certain things aren't fabricated here in Abu Dhabi. And as part of the Chamber's strategy, part of our ambition and growth, is to explore opportunities with the suppliers to fill those gaps and grow the industrial private sector in Abu Dhabi. Examples of which, subsea cables. 100% of our subsea cables used in our oil and gas projects are not bought or fabricated in the UAE, simply because they're not available. So these are opportunities that exist. If we look at pipelines, for example, both of our business units, both the marine dredging business unit and the energy business unit, use extensive volumes of pipeline. But because of the requirements of our clients, because of the specifications of the projects, there's a significant portion of that that we cannot obtain here in country. These are the opportunities. These are where there is an open field of opportunity for every supplier in Abu Dhabi to capitalize upon. If we move into the construction and fabrication subcontracts, this is where one of the higher values spent in Abu Dhabi. However, there is still opportunities. 25% of the 15% is currently flowing out of Abu Dhabi to other suppliers. Again, capacity requirements, certain technical capabilities, certain qualifications with ADNOC and Aramco and Abu Dhabi Ports and Modon, our key clients. And then the support services, and this is the part that quite often people don't understand, is as such a large company, 9 billion capital value on the stock exchange, we have an extensive amount of support services that we also require. And 15% of the 50% of our revenue is spent in this sector alone. Here we talk about logistics services, freight forwarding, camp and accommodations, either providing camps or constructing camps and providing remote site camps. We have testing and inspection services. Typically, every client around the world requires that to be done by an independent third party. So we engage with testing and inspection services companies. As I mentioned before, insurance and medical is a big proportion. Travel and transportation. As a global company, we send our employees, we send our teams, we send our resources around the world now. So there's a huge amount of local and international travel that we deal with. IT services, as you saw at the beginning, I always need support with IT services. Maintenance services, maintenance for our vessels, maintenance for key OEM suppliers. These kinds of things are areas that we spend a significant proportion of. If you take 15% of 25 billion, you can see the size and scale of the opportunity that's available to everybody. But it's not a matter of giving it away. There are requirements that we have to follow. And what I want to do now is just make sure that there is clarity, transparency, and a clear understanding of what it takes to come and recognize and realize these opportunities. This is just a very high-level summary of what's needed for registration. And to register as a supplier for NMDC, we need a trade license, company details and contact, the services provided, and an ICV certificate. Don't worry, all this information is available. We have a portal for those of you who are not registered with us so that you can do this online, and you can also do this here in the chamber. And over the coming days here with the chamber, as part of this initiative, we have registration desks available from now until Monday next week, which may be extended depending on how many people want to come and register to realize these opportunities. So all of this information is available. You don't need to take notes on this. But then, even as registered, per RFQ, we also, and I'll talk more about the procurement process, require a full compliant proposal and material data sheets for material supply. For subcontractors, the requirements are slightly different. We also require, for subcontractors, ISO certificates, basic standards in quality, HSE, these kinds of things. We need to see that the companies have the capability and the strength to be able to work within our system. So this is part of what we require from our subcontractors. And then per tender, there is more detailed information. But it doesn't stop there. We serve our clients. And up here is a summary of what our clients require our subcontractors and our suppliers to have in place in order to be able to come and work on their projects. And as you can see, in the oil and gas business, there is an awful lot that has to be complied with. There needs to be a company profile. There needs to be a track history. There needs to be accreditation certificates, an organization chart. They will even go to the extent in certain fabrications to interview the key personnel for the proposed supplier and the subcontractor. It's also a requirement to be registered with them. Now, we support new suppliers to go and register with ADNOC through our projects, with Aramco through our projects, but as a prerequisite prior to an award, there is a process of vetting and inspection and verification that needs to be gone through. They need to see what the QA/QC and HSE programs look like. The requirements for HSE do not just exist on the sites, on the construction sites. The standards that we all strive for to ensure optimum quality and creating a health and safe environment extends to the fabrication yards of the suppliers. It's a requirement when working for these companies that HSE programs aligned with the ADNOC and the NMDC programs are in place and evidence. There is also a need to show what the current workload is, because we need to make sure that people aren't overloaded. And as well, here in Abu Dhabi, working for ADNOC, there is a requirement to have an ICV certificate. We've heard in-country value mentioned a lot. I'm sure most of you should be familiar with the program run by ADNOC and also adopted by Abu Dhabi Ports and other government entities. But it's important that you go through that process in advance in order to be able to be ready to work for these companies. Yes. Yes, Activa is Saudi Arabia. That's for Saudi Arabia. So the UAE has ICV, Saudi Arabia has Activa. It's exactly the same process. One is in kingdom, one is in country. Okay. So the procurement process that we follow, as a publicly listed entity, we have to have very strong and robust procurement processes and procedures. NMDC does not have the freedom to award contracts without going through a competitive process, because we have to assure our shareholders and our partners that we are following clear, transparent procedures in order to do so. So every part of the 25 billion dirhams of procurement on the projects in hand will follow the same process, whether it's a material supply, whether it's a subcontract, whether it's a service agreement. And that process is simple, but you can see there are certain places where you don't proceed further along the process. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands what's necessary in that area. We do both a technical and a commercial proposal. The technical proposal, even for a material supply, is a review of the materials data sheet to see that it complies with the specification requirements. For equipment, it will be a verification that it is the type and standard of equipment that's being looked for. For marine vessels, it will be to comply with the marine standards that are applicable on the project. And also, if it's moving into subcontracts, it will involve who are going to be the people on the project? Who's going to be working with us? Who's going to be our partners leading this element of the work? During that technical evaluation process, non-compliant proposals do not proceed further in the procurement process. Now, that doesn't mean to say that if there's a dot missing off an I or a T not crossed, that then that's it, it's disqualified. And we'll give every opportunity to qualify. But if we don't see a compliant proposal with all of the requirements in there, unfortunately, the next stage doesn't proceed. So only the technically compliant bids are then considered commercially. Then we do the commercial proposal evaluation. Commercial isn't just about the price. Commercial also looks at terms and conditions. It looks at the financial stabilities of the companies. It looks at the acceptance of the terms and conditions that were associated with the RFQ or the tender. And it's really important to understand that if those requirements are not fulfilled, again, the proposals are not considered further. Then we move into everyone's favorite phase, which is the negotiation. And that's not just, if we don't follow a Abu Dhabi government process where it's negotiation with the low bidder. No, with everybody who's passed through the gate, we will then commence negotiations to reach the optimum value for the award, and then we award to the most competitive bidder. So this is the process. It doesn't matter whether it's supplying material, if it's supplying hard hats, coveralls, or it's a subcontract to go and fabricate 100,000 tons of steel. The process is the same. And as suppliers, to capitalize on the 25 billion that we've got in front of us, you have to make sure that you follow this process. If the process isn't followed, we cannot proceed with that supplier, because we owe it to our shareholders, we owe it to our market to have the transparent, robust, vigorous procurement process to ensure that we are best in class through our procurement chain. Some very simple do's and don'ts associated with this. So each do has a don't. So if there's something that's not clear, ask. I know that sounds simple, but many, many times during the procurement cycle, you will see bidders assuming something, not necessarily understanding the requirement that's being asked of them. The best thing to do is ask early. Don't wait till after you've submitted your bid or submit a qualified proposal, because then you may end up in the red boxes that we said and not being considered further. And also comply with the requirements. If the requirements are to provide a certain piece of equipment or a certain vessel, you can discuss with the procurement team only, not with the rest of the supply chain or the rest of the organization, the possibility. But if you don't have the equipment that can meet the requirements, advise us and let us know early. We don't want you to waste your time or us to waste our time looking at something that's not going to be compliant. If you've got an alternative, so let's say, for example, on a subcontract basis, you have an alternative that you'd like to offer us. Alternatives are welcome. We know the strength and the capability and the intelligence that's in our supply chain, but that alternative should be offered with a compliant bid. It's very difficult to assess an alternative bid against fully compliant bids, and our process won't actually allow us to do so. And as I mentioned before, it's critically important that you deal only with the procurement people, not with the project managers, not with the site managers. All the communication has to be channeled through the procurement team to ensure that the results are consistent, the responses are consistent, that they're answered, and also that it's within the procurement process. So that's the size and scale of the opportunity. We have in hand 25 billion minimum as available opportunities for the Abu Dhabi supply chain. And as His Excellency and Engineer Yasser said, it's our dream and our shared vision to ensure that the maximum amount of that flows through to the Abu Dhabi-based suppliers. And that's the purpose of this initiative. And that's what we're looking for your support to help us grow together. Now, what I'd like to move into is just a little bit more technical, and in a couple of areas where we see opportunities existing in the market, and we want to make sure that there is clarity between us and you as suppliers to ensure that those opportunities are recognized. The first area is in marine support craft. As you could see from the numbers that we had on the screen earlier, resource hiring is one of our biggest areas of expenditure. And within that, as a marine EPC contractor, you can imagine marine support craft is another large area of expenditure. We own a small fleet of that to support our existing craft, but for the size and scale of projects we need, we typically have huge requirements for marine support craft. But making sure that they comply with our clients' requirements is also a key factor in who we're able to go and talk to. So now what I want to do is run through what some of those more stringent requirements are. Now, that doesn't mean to say that on other projects that are not with those specific clients, that opportunities don't exist. But if you've got the ambition to grow into working in the oil and gas sector, or for working for some of the iconic projects here in Abu Dhabi and beyond, these are the requirements that you need to follow. And what we want to do is change the dynamic on the way we procure in this area. Typically, traditionally, the way we procure, each time we need a tug, each time we need a barge, we go to market, we ask all the suppliers, please give us your prices, and we do these things. Now, as we've heard the word partnership so many times, one of the things that we want to explore, and we actually have a roundtable discussion on that later today, is setting up framework agreements so that you as suppliers can have more reliability, knowing what's coming, knowing that the opportunities exist. And we already have contracts in place to shorten the procurement process. We're looking at long-term charters as well. Instead of we need a tug for 3 months, we'll be looking to explore the opportunities to sign agreements to secure fleets for much longer periods of time. This gives you the opportunity for surety of revenue. This gives us the opportunity to make sure that the fleet is available when we need it and it meets the standard that we do. And as well, you get the opportunity to amortize your overheads over a longer period of time, and therefore the prices, of course, will come down. We also are exploring, and we already have co-invested in equipment. With the right partners, we're more than happy to explore the opportunity to co-invest in this equipment so that we support the growth, we ensure through our contribution that the equipment complies. And we're also exploring new market entrants as well. And while that doesn't seem to be, or doesn't appear to be in line with the philosophy of growing Abu Dhabi, this is where you as supply chain have the opportunity to reach out, speak to those, and bring the new entrants to us as your partners. This is why this is here. If we look at tugs, I'm going to go through this very briefly, so I won't read it, but essentially every client has specific requirements for their equipment. In ADNOC, a tug cannot be more than 20 years old. In Aramco, a tug cannot be more than 14 years old. Anything older than that requires a special approval, a special exemption, which typically is a challenging process to go through. So when we talk about tugs, particularly in the oil and gas sector, this is what we mean. And as well, there's certain requirements for horsepower, there's certain requirements for bollard pull, there's certain requirements for various different things. But every single piece of equipment, for those of you not aware, then gets vetted by the client, personally inspected to ensure compliance. If we talk about the barges, barges have an age limit too. In ADNOC, it's 10 years maximum age limit. In Aramco, it's 14 years. And again, there are certain technical requirements, and again, everything needs to be vetted. But with this being the biggest area in the resources expenditure, this is why we've put this up there so that people understand it's not a matter of having a tug available, having a barge available. They have to meet certain criteria to be able to realize the opportunities that we've explained. Similarly for crew boats, 15 years, 14 years, etc. And all this technical information is available. It will be available. You can find this through the portals. Now I want to talk a bit about plant and equipment, which is where we see a significant opportunity, and we also see a certain degree of misunderstanding between what we need as NMDC Group and what is available in the market. And actually, this is one area where there is a great opportunity to bring a lot of the revenue that's currently flowing out of Abu Dhabi back into Abu Dhabi. And again, we're looking at co-investment, we're looking at framework agreements, we're looking at long-term hires, and as well new market entrants for these opportunities. But it's important to note, when we talk about this type of equipment, it's not general earth-moving equipment. An excavator for NMDC Group is not an excavator for working on a civil site. And I'll explain why. We use excavators, we use wheel loaders, we use these types of plant and equipment not to handle earthworks, but to handle rock. So in order for them to be able to be strong enough to handle rock, they have to be the bigger size, the bigger scale. What you can see on the screen is what we call a small excavator. Hitachi 470s, Komatsu PC400, or a Cat 349. This is the smallest size of excavator that we use. Typically what we find in the marketplace is we have Cat 320s. We have Hitachi 220s. These kinds are perfect for excavation, but we don't use them for excavation. We use them for handling rock. And if we use the smaller types, they will break. They will be damaged. They will not have the strength to be able to lift up the material. When we say larger excavators, this is the size and scale of a large excavator that we mean. We're talking Hitachi 1200s, Komatsu 1250s, and Hitachi 870s. This is the larger scale size excavators that we use. And they also have to come with the right attachments. Invariably, what we typically see within the supply chain is we have smaller excavators, but we also don't have the right attachments. They need to be equipped with rock buckets. If you bring an excavator as a supplier and it's not equipped with the right material, it will be damaged. That's why we don't allow it on site. We also need grabs. On the larger scale rocks, some of the large scale rocks that we install, armor rock, is 3 ton to 6 ton pieces of rock. Each piece of rock is 3 to 6 ton. So we need grabs to be able to pick it up. But most importantly as well, we also need the facility for long booms. The typical boom length that we need is 24 meters. Why? Because our excavators work on slopes of rock that extend down into the water. And they need to be able to reach far enough in order to be able to move and handle that rock down there. So I appreciate for a number of the suppliers, this is a bit too technical in this side, but it's these areas of opportunity, and these are examples of these areas of opportunity that we see. If we look at material supply side, as I said before, 100% of our subsea cables are bought outside of the UAE because there is no supplier available that meets the requirements here in Abu Dhabi or even in the UAE. So these are examples of where we want to give the message. Now, outside, we have booths on each of the key areas, materials, resources, these things. If you have questions, if you have any information that you want to do, if you have anything that you would like to explore further, then please feel free. These booths will be here for the next 3 days, as will our registration desks will be fully open as well for those who want to register and understand what is available in more detail. Here is some wheel loaders. And again, I've put up there the small ones. They can't work. The big ones can. Dozers. We see a chronic shortage of LGP dozers. These things typically work in the marine environment. They work in reclamation fields. They need to be low ground bearing pressure in order to be able to do that. Similar with all of our equipment. The other thing to understand when working for NMDC Group is the type of operation that we do and the type of activity that we do requires an infrastructure to support it. First thing and foremost, all of our projects have some degree marine related at the moment. We have ambitions to move into other sectors, but everything is a marine related activity, whether it's for our energy business unit or for our marine business unit. And therefore, whether it's manpower, whether it's equipment, whether it's material, all of that will be in a marine environment. which is a harsh environment, and it's usually remote as well. Quite often our projects are offshore. It's not like if it breaks down, it can be repaired immediately. If there is a problem with what's being supplied, it's very complicated in order to be able to return it back or to be able to fix it. So this needs to be part of the infrastructure of our supply chain, is to understand the support network that's needed in order to be able to make sure that everybody is successful. The other part is that we typically find is that the skill of the workforce is often not as familiar with the marine environment as it needs to be. To go and work in the marine environment, you need certain qualifications, you need certain classifications, you need certain approvals. There are HSE programs that you have to comply with, not because it's ticking a box, but because the environment is harsh. It's a difficult, challenging environment that we work in. And we want everybody here to understand that so that you can be ready to come and work in it with us. Because while it is challenging and while it is difficult, there are fantastic opportunities for every single supplier in this room and beyond to come and grow together with us. Thank you very much. As you saw at the beginning, there is a QR code. Please, if you have questions, if you have further inquiries, please submit those questions through the QR code, or our people will be outside on the booths for the next few days, and you'll have every opportunity in order to be able to ask those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for sharing these details. And next, let's welcome Mr. Carl Magnus Olsen, a board member of the Abu Dhabi Chamber, who will be telling us about the Chamber's strategy for the next few months.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation, Peter. It was great. Do you have any need for cars driving around, the personal driver? We have few in Kareem. Maybe we can talk. Excellencies, our chairman, Engineer Yasser, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of everyone at the Abu Dhabi Chamber, I'd like to really welcome you here to the Chamber's office and building. We're very excited that you guys are here, and we're very excited to be launching this initiative together with NMDC today. This is really at the core and the heart of what the Chamber is about, supporting the private sector of Abu Dhabi, supporting networking, and supporting opportunity creation for the private sector. So we're very excited. Now, I recognize that most of you are probably like kids in a candy store, and you want to head outside to the booths and get your hands on the details of what projects might be there that suits your different businesses. So I won't be long, but I wanted to take this opportunity to share a little bit about the Chamber and about our new strategy that we launched as recently as last month, and how this event today actually fits super well in our new strategy. So, as I mentioned, I'm one of the board members of the Chamber, and I'm also chairing our transformation committee that have been working for the past couple of months to develop this new strategy. And my day job is with Kareem, so we'll talk about cars, or I don't know if you do food delivery out to your different projects. We can help you with that as well. Yeah, exactly. So, as I mentioned, as we developed the strategy, we were looking at what is really the true role of the Chamber, and how can the Chamber be of service to all of you, our members. And at the heart of it, there's maybe a few roles that we'll talk about in a second, but really at the core of it is we want to promote private sector, we want to enable the private sector, and we want to grow the private sector. And we want to make sure that the private sector in Abu Dhabi is competitive, not just on Abu Dhabi standards, but on global standards. So for me, it's actually music to my ears to hear that this initiative is not only about supporting you and doing partnership within Abu Dhabi, within the UAE, but actually on a global basis. Let's build global giants from Abu Dhabi and from the UAE. Let's go beyond our borders and compete and deliver value. So very excited for this partnership. Now, if you take a step back, some of you might know that about a year and a half ago, there was a new board appointed by His Highness to the chamber. And it's quite a capable board and quite a large board. We're 29 board members. And as we began our duty, we realized that there is a need to transform the chamber. There is a need to ask ourselves, how can we be an even better partner to the private sector? And how can we support the private sector even better? And we said, we really need to drive a transformation. And as part of that transformation, we need to develop a new strategy. And as we set out to do that, we had 4 guiding principles to guide us on our journey. First of all, we said, we really need to become a trusted and value-adding partner to all members of this ecosystem, to the private sector, to all of you guys here, and also to our government partners. Secondly, we said, let's ensure that the chamber stays sustainable and independent. Of course, we work very closely with the government and with multiple government entities, both in Abu Dhabi and on the federal level. But at the heart of it, we are a membership organization. We represent you. We represent the private sector. So let's make sure that we can keep that independent voice and be the advocate for the private sector. The third principle was, let's make sure that we are actually anchored in the needs of the private sector. We don't want to just serve ourselves. Success is not like, yes, the chamber is fantastic, but the private sector is suffering. Then we haven't done our job. So as part of this strategy exercise, we actually ran a very comprehensive process where we met with, maybe even some of you in this room, we met with private sector entities across all the different sectors of Abu Dhabi. We met small companies, medium-sized companies, large companies, and of course also the sort of semi-government entities to really hear about what can the chamber do for you today. And finally, we also recognize, as I mentioned, that while we represent the private sector, for things to actually happen, we need to have a very strong collaboration with the government. And we have a very strong partnership with the DED. They were actually and continue to be a fantastic partner as we develop the strategy and as we go forward, as well as many of the ministries on the federal level. So with that in mind, we ran this strategy process. And before you come into strategy, you need to ask the question of why do you exist? On a personal level, I actually asked, most of my friends, they know me as the person who asks, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? Why do you exist? Yeah. So we asked ourselves that question, why does the chamber exist? What is our role? Why do we get out of bed every morning? And what we concluded and what we sort of articulated a little bit clearer than in the past is that our mission, our purpose, is to empower businesses in Abu Dhabi to enable the private sector to reach its full potential. And as I mentioned, in a competitive state-of-the-art ecosystem. We want to help the private sector become globally competitive. An initiative like this today is an example of this. There were a lot of requirements on the slides that Peter shared, but I'm sure that as we take those on and comply with them, we will raise the bar and we'll raise the game. And that will open up even more opportunities, not just with the NMDC, but there will be other such opportunities as well. Now, the second question is our vision. This is sort of where are we going? Where are we actually heading? The mission stays the same every single day of the week, but the vision is where we're heading. And at some point, hopefully we'll get there and then we can upgrade our vision, like the leadership of this country often does. We have an ambitious vision, we march there, we get there, and then we raise the bar. Our vision for the next few years is to strengthen the private sector in Abu Dhabi through advocacy, innovation, and digitization. And like was mentioned by our chairman, we want to make Abu Dhabi the #1 choice in the MENA for both businesses and for talent. We know that magic does not happen by companies alone. Particularly for the next wave of companies that's going to be born, myself, I represent the tech sector. It's all about talent. And as a chamber, we want to support and promote that Abu Dhabi becomes this #1 hub, both for business and for talent. We also refreshed our values as a chamber: teamwork, creativity, innovation, empowerment, customer satisfaction. So with this in mind, we said, okay, let's develop a strategy. And when we looked at what we have been doing as a chamber, the chamber is older than the country, right? We've been around for a while. And we have gotten engaged in a lot of activities over the years. And we have developed fantastic value to Abu Dhabi over the years. But as we took stock at, where are we now and how do we best support for the next 50 years, we said, let's focus a little bit. And we developed a strategy which we think is super clear. It has 3 main pillars. And they are essentially that the chamber will play the role as a policy advocator, this chamber will play the role of being a networker, and the chamber will play a role of being a service provider. Now, today's event is about networking, so I will spend more time on that, but I'll just briefly explain the other ones. Policy advocacy is all about how can we carry the voice of the private sector to the government, and how can we work with the government to carry their voice with the private sector and make sure that this interface happens. We are the interface. What does that actually mean? It means that we run these sectorial working groups. You might be aware that a few years ago, there was this initiative launched by the DED called ECC, Economic Collaboration Committee, and they have multiple different sectorial groups, industry, construction, real estate, tourism, healthcare, etc. And we're now in a process and a partnership with the DED where the chamber we're migrating these working groups back to the chamber so that these working groups can be led by the private sector and hence truly represent the views of the private sector with the government. We are also involved in regulation and campaigns, and this goes both ways. When there's a new law to be drafted in Abu Dhabi, the chamber will give input on this law and regulation on behalf of the private sector. And when the law has been enacted, the chamber will support the private sector on how do you comply. Again, similar to how, for example, NMDC would help you comply with the requirements that might be theirs or even from their clients. We are also hosting B2B business to government conferences. The flagship one is our annual business forum, which you will hear about later this year. And we will go deeper into the topic of economic insights. And here I don't mean things that you will get from the statistics office. We have already reliable data in terms of population, in terms of GDP, but we talk about very sector-specific data that can help all of you to plan your businesses and make investment choices. Very briefly on service provider, we will play the role as a chamber, as the ecosystem navigator. That means that as you come, many of you have been in Abu Dhabi for a long time, but as new entities show up in Abu Dhabi and they want to learn how to navigate the ecosystem, it's challenging. There's a lot of entities in Abu Dhabi. There's a lot of different departments, there's a lot of different entities, and how do you navigate who does what? And we will help with that. We will also provide, and this is what our chairman mentioned, we continue to provide targeted advisory and mediation services. And of course, the normal things that chambers typically do in terms of documentation and attestation. Now, the key topic in the middle here, and this is why we're here today, is about networking. Networking is so powerful because through networking, we can create opportunities. And I love the slogan of Grow Together. It's amazing. This is what it's all about. This is about how the large companies that have been successful, and I love the quote that you had, Engineer Yasser. Once you become a leader, then it's all about helping others grow, right? So the chamber, we want to do this in 3 big ways. One is business matchmaking. We will have events like this one today. This is probably the best example, and I'm so excited that we have this event together already at the start of our new strategy. We will also build a tech platform where we can do business matchmaking online. So not every meeting can happen in person, and we will build a very capable platform where private sector, government, embassies, business councils, everyone can sign up, log in, and engage with each other. We will also continue to running focused events, and these will be on the topics that are the most pressing for the private sector across sectors. What are the biggest topics on people's mind in Abu Dhabi today? Tax, emiratization in the private sector. How can we as a whole, private sector, tackle these? How do we best learn from each other? What is best practices? And these are topics that the Chamber will pick up. And we have already hosted a number of these events where we talk about these topics, we share the knowledge, and we help the private sector to embrace this. And of course, we will also support in international delegations. When we all want the ecosystem to grow, and part of that is also to attract new entities, new companies, new investors that want to come to Abu Dhabi and the UAE. So I hope that today's event, being under the umbrella of the Chamber supporting as a networker, can set an example for the role that the Chamber can play. And it's also fantastic to get a chance to bring all of you here to the Chamber building. We've been locked out in COVID for a while, and it's so amazing to see this auditorium and this building being full of people wanting to network, wanting to find business opportunities, and wanting to do business together. So again, we're very excited about it and grateful that we can partner together and make this initiative happen. Now, like Yasser said, I think you said, I'll quote you, we'll be back here in a year and you can hold us accountable to show how much of these opportunities have actually happened, right? And in a similar way, at the Chamber, we have developed 6 strategic objectives that will be our guiding principles or guiding objectives for the next 3 years. And those 6 objectives are printed on all our walls here in the Chamber. And I would like to invite you as well to hold us accountable that we are delivering on these 6 objectives, because that means that we're actually delivering value to the private sector. So I'll just mention them briefly. So the first one is that the Chamber will be the #1 advocate for the private sector in Abu Dhabi, as I mentioned, and the main communication channel between the government and the private sector. This is where I mentioned our role in the sectoral committees as a key part of this. This is also where I mentioned our role in regulatory campaigns, both in terms of when laws are being drafted and also when laws are being implemented. So this is our first strategic objective. Secondly, we will be the leader of the private sector committees. This is such an important point to point out, because over the past couple of years, the private sector, or I would guess the sector committees, were actually chaired by government entities. And while that was done in an amazing way, I think for us to really get our voice heard, it's important that the private sector is leading the private sector committees. So this is happening. The third objective is that we will be the go-to entity for identifying relevant business partners, locally and abroad. That's why we're here today. Fourth one is we will be the #1 platform for ecosystem navigation. Again, this means if you want to find out who you need to deal with in Abu Dhabi to make business, to be successful, you can come to the Chamber. The Chamber will guide you and the Chamber will support you. Number 5, we will be best in class and fully digital in the provision of our services that we offer, including documentation services and mediation services that I mentioned before. And lastly, we will be the go-to entity for private sector data and insights. This is what we have set ourselves up for. This is what we will hold ourselves accountable for. And this is what I invite all of you to hold us accountable for over the next 3 years. Now, this is all on PowerPoint, right? This is a plan. But the great thing that I want to share with you, and we shared this a month ago when we launched the strategy, is that implementation has already started. We are already making progress on the new strategy. And I want to share just a few highlights to show that we're moving, and we're moving quite fast. First of all, and this is largely accelerated also by COVID, we have already moved to digitalize all our services. So any interfacing that you as members, as private sector representatives might want to do with the Chamber, you can do using the TAM platform, completely digital. This is already done. Secondly, as I mentioned as well, we have already started the transition of the private sector sectorial working groups. We started with the industry working group, we then proceeded with the construction working group, We are taking on the automotive working groups. We have the labor camp working groups. We're working to launch a tech startup working group, also to make sure that the chamber is part of driving the sort of new type of sectors in Abu Dhabi. And over this year, we will take over the rest of the private sector working groups in collaboration with the DD. So this is happening. And some of you might even be representing in these sectoral groups that have already started. They're meeting monthly, and they're coming up with, you know, a list of challenges and opportunities for how we can make each of these sectors better in Abu Dhabi. We have also listened to the private sector, and this is maybe on the topic of procurement, is a big one. Sometimes you need, you know, sometimes there's disagreements, and you need a way to solve these disagreements. And, you know, arbitration is one powerful way of doing that instead of going taking the route through the courts. Now, we have listened and we have heard that, you know, the current arbitration center in Abu Dhabi is not fantastic. And we've been working very hard so that over the next couple of months, we will be presenting and launching a brand new global arbitration center in Abu Dhabi that we hope can serve both entities based in Abu Dhabi, but even to build the expertise and knowledge that we can actually serve companies globally that want to have Abu Dhabi as an arbitration center. And then, yeah, like we said, this is one event. We have had other events as well, but this is definitely our flagship event, and so excited to be doing this together. Let's have more events of this sort in the chamber. Let's partner and find as much opportunity as possible to have Abu Dhabi-based companies work on the projects that are, you know, initiated by other companies in Abu Dhabi, whether they are private sector, public companies, or whether they are government companies. Now, lastly, when we think about the strategy of the chamber, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we're not solving for success of the chamber. We are a membership organization. We represent you. So for us to say that we have been successful is if we can say that the private sector in Abu Dhabi is successful. That's what we're solving for. And we're doing that in, you know, complete and close partnership and collaboration with the DD and other government entities. Everyone wants to make sure that the private sector in Abu Dhabi is thriving. Secondly, I want to assure you that everyone here at the chamber, our team, our management team, our board, we're all here with 100% dedication to, you know, make sure that the chamber lives up to our promises and to support each and every one of you as our members to make you successful. And finally, as we go through this transformation and we implement our new strategy, I want to tell you as well that our doors are wide open for feedback. Please let us know what's working, what can be done better, how we can support you better. Give us feedback about an event like today. Was it good? What could we do to make it even better? We really want to listen and hear. That's how we can become better and stronger together. So finally, I'd like to thank everyone that has been involved in making today happen. I know the day is just starting. I think the real exciting conversations will happen now after this auditorium session. But thank everyone from NMDC, Engineer Yasser, and the full team that has made this happen. I would like to thank everyone from the chamber, starting, of course, with His Excellency Abdullah and the rest of the board and the management team and everyone that's been working on this. And I would like to thank all of you that has come to attend this session and to, you know, show that you are committed to serving companies of Abu Dhabi and you want to make this happen together. So like Engineer Yasser said, like I think our chairman said as well, and Peter, everyone, let's go and make this happen and let's grow together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olsen, for your remarks. If you would like to register as an NMDC Group supplier, or if you have any further questions, please approach one of the desks set up outside the hall. Note that these information desks will also be available on Friday and Monday for registration. Everyone is welcome to visit. Thank you all for joining us today for the launch of the Let's Grow Together initiative. We hope that you have found the information presented here today useful. Please make your way outside for lunch. Thank you all.